What are we going to talk about next week, Ricky?
Well, I thought we were gonna talk about um, what do you call it? Uh, commands. So we could do that next week. Oh, what the hell? It didn't I changed the spread show notes, but it didn't show up my changes. Maybe it just didn't refresh or something. Oh yeah, it's in there. Okay. I'm gonna change that. I want to use something else
All right.
now.
Well, we're going to go ahead and get started here.
Yeah.
Did you hear? Oh, I'll wait until we record to tell you this. All
Yeah.
right. Hey, everybody. Welcome to the Linux Cast, episode number 2 for April 5th, 2017. I'm your host, Matthew Weber. I'm joined by Ricky Williams, as always.
What up? What up?
All right. So, Ricky, I don't know if you heard this today, but there was a big breaking news in the Linux world today. Did you hear what Canonical announced today?
Nope.
They're getting rid of Unity.
Oh, really?
Yeah, it's going away. It's going back to GNOME, which is hilarious because I had this whole thing planned for tonight, talking about how Unity was my favorite environment, and then by the time the next Ubuntu comes out,
it'll be
Unity
gone.
is going to go away. So that's going to suck.
Wow, I wonder why. It's just not liked that much.
Well, they built Unity mostly because they wanted to do phones,
Yeah.
remember?
Oh, I see. Okay.
And like 4 people bought a phone with the Unity
A
experience
little
on
more
it.
than Windows Phone.
Oh, snap. That's hilarious. And also true. I know a guy with a Windows Phone. It's
See, that's one.
it was a prepaid phone that cost like $80, and he's been using it for like 4 years. He uses it as basically a flip phone. It's hilarious.
Ooh.
Basically, it has the same functionality as a flip phone. So anyway, so tonight on the Linux Cast, we're going to be talking about our favorite environments. I think I will go first because I'll probably be a little bit briefer than Ricky.
Well, I think you'll be longer than me, but sure.
You think so?
Yeah.
All right, maybe. All right, so let's go through a few of them and talk about it instead of just talk about the favorites. All right, so
Yeah.
the first one that I ever used was KDE. And I don't remember what version it was, but I haven't used KDE since my initial Linux experience. So I haven't used Plasma 5, which is the newest one of the main stream. I kind of wanted to try Plasma 5 out because it looks kind of neat. But it also doesn't look like it's changed. I mean, KDE's kind of stayed the same for quite a long time.
Mm-hmm.
Now, whereas like GNOME has changed quite a bit from the screenshots that I've looked at. So, KDE is when I first originally thought of Linux, KDE was what I thought of because that was what I thought of first. And then I used GNOME in I can't remember what distro I was using. I can't remember.
Okay.
Oh, that was annoying. Anyways, just to let you guys know, I hate Windows. I mean, ever since Windows decided to put in the stupid notification system, I get like 500 notifications a day. It's the stupidest thing ever. I don't care. The only notifications I want to get on my desktop is like email, and I don't even really need that. All right, so I tried to install Cinnamon, which is the main Mint environment. But because VirtualBox, which is what I'm now using to run my Linux distro, or I will be as soon as Ubuntu finishes installing, it doesn't do 64-bit. It will only do 32-bit. So I downloaded the wrong one. So I'm gonna create a machine with the Cinnamon eventually.
Yeah.
And give that a try because Cinnamon looks neat.
Yeah. VirtualBox doesn't do 64. Is that because of the machine you're using as a host or what?
It could be. All I know is that when you start up a new machine, it goes through and gives you the options of what kinds of Linux, and
Yeah.
there's like an other Linux that you could use.
Yeah.
All of them in parentheses for me say 32-bit.
Mm,
And I tried the 64-bit, and it said it would
yeah.
not, the kernel would not accept this CPU. So,
Yeah.
but what's weird is I'm running a 64-bit version of Windows.
Yeah.
But it's also an AMD processor. So,
Mm.
let's talk about AMD for a minute, Ricky. AMD sucks. Buy Intel. And I mean, seriously, who in their right minds would go out and say, I want an AMD when Intel's was so much better? How does AMD stay in business? And the answer to that is ATI. They make graphics cards, right?
I was just gonna say ATI owns that bad boy.
Yep, that's how AMD stays in business, because their graphics cards are actually pretty good. Their CPUs, garage sale. I need a new computer.
And I own AMD shares, so I should be telling people not to buy Intel.
What is wrong with you, man? Buy Intel shares and sell that shit.
Those are too pricey for me.
All right, so the other main one that I've used is Unity. So like I said at the top, Unity is going away apparently, which is disappointing. But that really doesn't really mean you can't use it, because I don't know when the next version of Ubuntu is going to come out. Probably later this year, I'd assume.
Yeah, I think they do 2 a year.
Yeah, well, we should be getting very close to another LTS.
Yeah.
So.
Yeah, because I think they do 4 and 10, something like that.
So like the last LTS, I think it was 1604.
Yeah.
So and we're on 1610.
10.
Should be getting
No.
be getting a little closer at least. Anyways, it's actually going to be what I'm going to be using now as my main Linux box. So I mean, Unity looks neat. It reminds you a little bit of OS X with the like the dock system that they created. It's very tight. I think I'm gonna miss it, honestly, a little bit, because it's so easy to get used to. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
It's familiar in a way that something like KDE isn't really. Even though KDE has like brought in a start style menu and
yeah, you have
like
to
that,
get you have to get your own launcher kind of thing, and I mean you can skin it or whatever.
All right, so what else have you used, Ricky?
Okay, so let me see. So when I used Mint that one time, the first time, I think that was on KDE. I'm pretty sure, but I didn't have too much experience with it. I guess I would say, because once I got it, obviously I was all about customizing the whole look and feel, blah blah blah, and I'm pretty sure I put like a skin on top, right? Like I had a launcher and I had like all these other little things running. GNOME, I think I've used that before. Ubuntu is what I've had the most of my experience with, which is in the Unity. And like you, I like it. It's very OS X style. And now I'm running Mint again, which is a lot like Windows style. So I've used both of them. I mean, I'm pretty adaptable, because I mean, I use Windows and I use Mac on a daily basis, so it's not like I can't adapt to anything. So yeah, so I mean, I guess I've used all of those. I wonder which environment. Damn it, I'm spacing on the name now. Ah, shit, that other flavor of Linux, the one that is based for ethical hacking mostly. Shit, let's like Backtrack. What is it? Backtrack and Kali. That's it. I wonder which one Kali uses. I should look it up and see. I have a feeling it's gonna be it. I mean, it's based off. I think it's a Debian, right?
Yeah.
So.
Oh, Ricky, I want you to Google something for me. Google Deepin, DEPIN desktop environment.
Okay.
And look at that.
DEEPIN.
DEEPIN. I've never used it before, so I don't know how good it is.
Yeah.
Just look at the screenshot or something. I wonder if I can share this with you.
Oh wow, that looks pretty nice.
It looks. I mean, talk about copying
That's
OS
very.
X, right?
I know. I was just gonna say that's very Mac-like. Like, holy crap!
Like you stole the dock, man. And there's another one called the Enlightenment desktop that looks
Yeah,
almost.
there's a ton of them. I
Yeah,
know. I remember.
I've never used I'm looking at a list of 10 of them. I've
Mhm.
only used like half of them.
Yeah, because I remember when I was running Mint that time, and I was looking for like how I really wanted to set it up, and there was just so much. So there's a ton of stuff, but not I can't find which environment Kali. Oh, I think it says GNOME. Looks like it. But yeah, so I mean, like I'm really adaptable. That's the good thing. So, I don't mind using any of like I don't have a preference of any of the environments over the other. I mean, like I said, I would really love to run Fedora because I think that's the only one I've never run as a distro. But yeah, it just doesn't like me, so I gave up on that.
Well, it won't even run in a VM.
Oh, I wouldn't even bother trying. I don't know. It don't like me. It might blow up my host or something.
Yeah,
Something
well,
unexpected.
that's the good thing is I went through before I started messing around with this and just backed up everything. I was like, you know what? I don't care if it blows it up. I'm just gonna
Reload.
just
But
fuck it.
yeah,
If I have to, I'll format everything and reinstall Windows. So have you ever used a distro called Solus?
I've heard about it. I haven't used it. I've heard about like a lot of them. Like there's the what is it, Lubuntu. There's like the Arch Linux. Yeah, there's a whole ton that I've heard about, but I mean, the main ones that I've used are Kali, Ubuntu, Mint. Yeah, that's pretty much it for me.
Elementary OS. I've never heard of that either. Oh wow, that looks almost exactly like Mac OS too. Interesting. And they charge for it. Interesting.
Yeah. Yeah, I went through and I donated to
You can get it at
Ubuntu
0.
because I felt like
I would give money to like a smaller distro if I found like a distro like this. Maybe I really would really like this elementary OS. I'd probably give something to them because they're a little bit smaller than Canonical.
Yeah.
Because that's a big company, right?
Yeah.
So.
But I mean, for me, the fact that I'm using it for free and it's nice, you know what I mean? Like it's just sort of giving back to the whole idea, not only to that company, but the whole idea of it and the support that they would offer to the community, right? So
yeah. Well, and they one of the things I've noticed, like with some of the older Linux distros, is that their updates are sometimes non-existent. The older it is, it seems like they just don't update as often, and that's something that Ubuntu hasn't ever had a problem with. They just consistently come up with something new. Once or twice a year, and it's always some new, features and updates on drivers and installations and things like that. They have a fully curated store. It's very interesting. All right, so I'm going to go into a little bit of a rant here that has nothing to do really with environments, but so what I want to talk about now that we've kind of covered environments, and we can get back into that in a minute if we want to, but I just want to talk about the install process because I think that if there's one thing that you can point to about the reason why Linux isn't more popular in the mainstream consumer, market or whatever, is that it's hard to install. And originally that was what Ubuntu was going to be. Like that's what Ubuntu was meant to solve, was the install process and make it easier to access Linux, right? It's what, in addition to using something like why they switched to Unity, so that it was easier to, it was more desktop like Mac OS or Windows. It was supposed to be more accessible, right? But even with Ubuntu nowadays, at least for me, now these are just personal experiences. Linux is getting really hard to install for just from a personal computing standpoint. Now, like Ricky's been having problems with
Fedora,
right? I had problems with Red Hat and Mint, and there have been errors in this Linux or Ubuntu install that I'm looking at, and I'm still not convinced that this Ubuntu VM is actually going to end up working. And I mean, I've sat here for 4 hours and trying to get it to work. Whereas with something like Windows, you pop in a CD, if it, or whatever, or you download it, and 6 steps later, and maybe 45 minutes, you're using Windows.
Yeah.
As much as I hate Windows, the one thing that Windows has done right, and same thing with Mac OS, is that it's very easy to install. It's very easy to update, and that's something that, at least in my experience, Linux is not. I think that's why Linux has remained an enthusiast style thing in the consumer sphere. Now, obviously, that's completely different in IT, because IT guys know what they're doing for the most part. Now, granted, like I said last time we were on, I had no idea what the hell Linux on enterprise was when I started working IT. I just didn't know, because I didn't study in college, in IT. I'm a history major, I mean, that's about as far away from computing as possible. I mean, I was studying rocks. So, most IT, when they get certified and they study it in community college, or as a bachelor's degree, they know what they're doing going in. So it's different for them, but from a consumer standpoint, Linux, I think, still remains inaccessible, because what's the first thing you have to do when you download and want to download and install like Ubuntu? You have to burn it to a disk, and I mean, first of all, or a USB key, right? Most people don't know how to do that.
Yeah.
I mean, and there's so much there. So, and because there's so many like applets or utilities or whatever that can burn your image to the USB or your disk or whatever, there's so many different ways for it to go wrong, right? If there's one flaw in that disk and you install it and try to install your Linux distro, it fails. So it's just not as easy as it could be. Now, obviously, if you want to bypass that or whatever, you could always order like a disk from, Canonical, which is probably what I should have done.
Yeah.
Because
so
that's one of the things that tripped me up.
Yeah, I mean, I think that's a good topic, because we pretty much covered the environments. I think for me, looking at it, I think for me it goes a little further than that. With Linux, I think that in my case, I think one of the major things that I would say is that it's not, because, okay, before, way back in the day, it used to be Linux was so great because you could throw it on anything and it would work. It's not resource intensive, because they would always tell you, oh yeah, you can load it up on a Pentium 90, 5 megabytes of RAM, and the thing would run. You can chain a whole bunch of them together and make a supercomputer. Hardware that Windows would just barf all over, and it couldn't do it. You could load it with Linux. But now I find that the story is still similar, where if you load it up on a machine with like 512 megs of RAM, it will still run. It will, run in the sense that it will be usable, not like Windows, where you'll be waiting half a day for it to boot up. But for me, I find the problem is that it's not cut and dry which machines you can load it on. Like, I can buy a machine from Toshiba, HP, Dell, Acer, Asus. It doesn't matter which manufacturer, which model. like whether it's a netbook or a laptop, a 16 gig or a 2 gig, I can throw Windows on it and it will work. Now, if I get a Dell machine and I throw Linux on it, maybe the driver doesn't work because it's an AMD driver, not an NVIDIA, or it's a certain NVIDIA, or the Wi-Fi card that's in it won't work right out of the box
Yeah.
because, you know what I mean? Like even now, my main Linux machine, it works 90%, but it has a flicker in the monitor, which I can't get rid of. And it also, the fans run 90% of the time like jet engines. And if I unplug it, like this is a brand new machine, if I unplug the power, it will last for maybe 2 hours, the battery, right? And it's running like crazy hot. And that's not a hardware thing. That is a Linux install thing. You know what I mean?
Yeah,
Um,
you're right. I mean, outside of the hardships you're going to face getting into installing a distro, once you've installed it and get the the base running, if you can get that far, then you have to there's the additional terrible hurdle of drivers that you have to continually install every time you plug into a new device, and these are devices that you actually have to have, video cards, network cards, things for your get your optical
Wi-Fi.
drive, Wi-Fi. Yeah, I mean, trying. I mean, trying to get so we have a few Linux laptops at where I work, and they run our company wide distro, that's tailor made for us, right? I mean, we have because we have two versions. We have the one for the servers, and then we have the one that we send out and deploy on things. So, but the thing is, all these are fairly new, and they all have the new hardware, and they all have a Bluetooth card in them. And trying to find a driver for that Bluetooth card to get it to actually work was impossible. We couldn't find it. There wasn't even any alternates, like use this one for that worked for this older version or something like that. So sometimes you can switch them out.
Yeah,
but
so certain features won't work, but you'll get like the basic.
Right. Yeah. This one there was nothing like that. There was no way for us to find a Bluetooth driver for that Bluetooth chip. So in this day and age where you can plug Windows in and everything works, or plug in Mac OS and everything works, it's just a matter of sitting there and waiting for it to, basically you plug in like a microphone or something like that into like a Windows machine. It looks for the driver, it downloads it. You don't even have to do anything. It just does it in the background. And I mean, I understand we're supposed to be Linux fans, but there's obviously Linux problems. And I think,
Linux fans, but you want the platform to get better. So
there's so much that's good about Linux that, first of all, Linux is free. It's 100% free, no matter what distro. For the most part, the consumer distros, they're all free, open source.
The community behind it is awesome.
Huge community, lots of how-to, lots of applications, lots of themes. Lots of ways to customize everything you could possibly think of customizing. There's just so much that's good.
Yeah.
But then on the other side, there's this black hole of evilness.
Well, that's why it stays like enthusiasts, which is what most of the community are, right? And so, like, it would be nice to have it more mainstream, but I think there's just a lot going on right now that it won't be anytime soon.
Yeah, I don't think it will be either. And I think it's kind of the whole chicken and egg thing. In order for Linux to get the drivers that it needs to be more mainstream. In order to be more mainstream, it needs the drivers, right? So, Mac, the Macintosh faced this for a long time, not only with drivers but with games, right? For the longest time, if you wanted to play a video game, you had to get a Windows machine.
Windows, yeah.
Right. Now that's not true. Within the last 10 years, almost the vast majority of major game platforms have done both. They create a Windows and a Mac version. So, like, if you wanted to play Sims, like if you wanted to play the Sims, Sims 1 or Sims 2, I can't remember. Like, you had to have a Windows machine, but Sims 3 came out on the Mac and Windows, and same with Sims 4. I mean, and usually day and date, like, so it was on both exactly the same time. Like SimCity 4, the last SimCity or whatever it was, there was a delay,
Yeah.
but we knew it was coming, right? So
Yeah.
whereas and that was all based on popularity, because the Mac became a lot more popular because of the $9.99 MacBook that a whole bunch of college kids got. That was the college laptop you'd buy. It was $9.99. You'd buy it, and it was awesome. That that white one, with the glowing the back. I mean, it was awesome. It was indestructible, really. I mean, it was kind of awesome. And I would really want one of those today, because they even had a black version, right?
Yeah.
Like, where is that Apple these days? Anyways, so let's move into our picks of the week.
Okay.
Ricky, why don't you go ahead and go first?
Okay. So, for me, my pick is a file system type, and that is because I use Windows, Mac OS, and Linux. And for people out there who do use all of those OSs at the same time, you want to transfer things between them. And for me, I'm using a flash drive, a USB stick. Some people, I mean, yes, you can use like cloud storage, so you could use Dropbox, because that, you don't have to carry anything. It's online. All the machines are online. You don't have to worry about compatibility. But hey, at some point, maybe you don't have internet or something,
Or you want to
and
download a
you
movie.
gotta have a USB stick. So my pick is the file system exFAT, which is created by Microsoft, but Mac OS now understands exFAT, and you can see that because you can actually format a USB stick in exFAT on Mac OS. Linux also understands exFAT. The only thing you have to do to your Linux in order for it to read exFAT is you just have to install two things. So you have to do your sudo apt-get. I come from Ubuntu. If you're using something else like Fedora, you'll have to use whatever the command is. I think it's like fget or something like that. But anyway, so sudo apt-get install exFAT, exFAT hyphen fuse, fuse, and then apt-get install exFAT hyphen utils, utils. Once you install those, Linux will natively, or not, but it will out of the box plug in your USB. It will understand exFAT. The only caveat for you to know is if you're formatting the stick on Mac OS, when you choose exFAT, you have to make sure that you choose it before you get to the exFAT. It will offer you MBR. Make sure you choose MBR. If you don't specify MBR, it will format it as GPT or whatever the other partition type, not MBR. Which when you go to plug it into Windows, it will then not understand the disk. So even though it's exFAT, it will not read it because it's not MBR type. So that's the only thing you have to be careful of, only when you're formatting it on Mac OS. If you do it from the Windows side, then it doesn't matter. They'll all read it back and forth. There you go.
That's actually interesting, because I did not know that. All right, so I think I'm thoroughly thieving this from the 3Cast when Ricky talked about this particular application. It's called VirtualBox. The best part about VirtualBox, it's a virtual machine software made by Oracle. And the best thing about it, that I found so far is it's 100% free. I mean,
Two thumbs
so
up.
yeah, all right. So anything free, and you got my ears pointed straight up. Free is great. That's why Linux is great. It's the number one reason. But so for 20 years or something like that, I've been using VMware. But the problem with VMware is that it's very expensive. They used to have a free version. I was not able to find it. And even their free version, when I used it like one time, it was terrible. But anyways, if you want to use VMware, you have to pay like $80 is like the minimum, and if you want like the good kind, it's like $150. And when you're going to use a virtual machine maybe 3 times a week, it's not really going to pay to spend that kind of money. Not when you could put that towards something different, like a brand new iPhone that I'm going to be getting in at the end of the month.
Woohoo!
Yeah, we'll talk about that later. Anyway, so VirtualBox is free. It despite my mental deficiency, my mental deficiency, being completely stupid when it comes to computers basically anymore. I spend way too much time with servers, man. I don't know what to do. I look at a personal computer and like I don't know what's going on anymore. This doesn't look like a command line. Anyways, I was able to first figure out VirtualBox almost entirely on my own. I mean, I had some questions for Ricky, but those were in-depth questions. You know, like, can I change this after the fact?
Yeah.
Which, according to Ricky, you can, and it's kind of awesome. It's fair. I mean, it was just astonishingly easy. The hardest part I had was making sure that I had a Linux distro that was capable of running in a VM, a virtual machine, on my particular computer, because for some reason I can only run 32-bit on this computer, whereas I should be able to run 64-bit. So I kept downloading 64-bit distros, and they just wouldn't work.
Yeah.
But the good news is it was very easy. I mean, it was astonishingly easy once I got the right distro type to get it up. I mean, it was just a matter of, you know, naming it, then selecting how much RAM you want, and then how much hard disk space it can have.
Yeah.
Yep. And then it was just, you know, then it created the machine, and then it would just start the machine, you know, select the ISO. So this was what's great. It was one of the questions I was going to ask Ricky, but I actually ended up figuring it out myself, is that you don't actually have to go through and like burn the ISO to anything. You can just select it in the machine once it's started, and it will go through and run it just like it's a regular, like it was in an optical drive, which is fantastic because it takes the entire process of trying to figure out how to get it onto a disk of some sort without, you know, worrying about errors. Because I mean, that's the number one problem I've had with Linux over the last few weeks when when we conceived the podcast, is I've been messing around with Linux, and every time I tried a new install, I would go through and, you know, burn it onto a USB key or burn it onto a CDRW, which is hilarious because I still have CDRW things running around. But anyways, every time I do that, it would have an error or something on it, and it would just completely fail. And it usually failed early in the process, which is good because I'd hate to, you know, format it. It's the reason why I couldn't get Mint to install directly to the hard drive instead of using a VM, which is what I tried initially. It just wouldn't work, and I don't know why it won't work. But it said that the disk or whatever I was using was faulty, and I mean that was a waste of 2 hours. And then I was like, I don't want to use Linux anymore. I want to go to Windows, and when you want to go back to Windows, you know something's wrong. Anyways, VirtualBox, it's free, it's awesome. Definitely download it. I definitely want to check and make sure.
It's good. Like way back in the day, it was really rough around the edges. Because at the time I was using VMware on my Mac, but now I'm using it and it's wicked. So
it's very good.
2 thumbs up. They're doing updates all the time. It's got the expansion pack. You have to get the expansion pack, and that will allow you so that when you resize the window, the desktop will resize along with it. And it adds some other stuff, but I mean, really great. You can't beat it for the price of free. If you're loading up Linux is also free. That's great. If you're doing Windows, obviously you have to have your Windows Media and the key. But the
Fucking
the
Microsoft.
the virtual software itself is free. So I mean, yeah, 2 thumbs up for me. I'm running it as well, and it's wicked.
Yeah, it's very good. And it will be perfect for me if I can go through and change this VMware to the proper specs now that I know what I'm doing, because I really want to go back through and double the RAM that is
Oh yeah,
capable of from 2 to 4, and I
Yep.
would really like to put it as at the max of video memory. So,
Yeah.
because right now I mean, it hasn't finished installing Ubuntu yet, but it's very, very laggy. I mean, it looks like it's those little picture books or whatever that you got to flip or whatever to get the animation to go through. It kind of looks like that. It looks like it's running at about 5 frames a second. It's terrible, but that's my fault because it's at 16 megabytes of video memory. So that's apparently the default. Like, let's make the default a little bit better. Anyway, so that is it for us this week. If you want to get in contact with us, you can do so. Email at thelinuxcast.com is the email address. You can follow us on Twitter. I'm at MTWB. Ricky is at Ricky_Williams1. The Linux Cast apparently does have a Twitter handle, but I don't remember creating it. So at the Linux Cast is our. I don't think I've tweeted a damn thing on there yet. I definitely will. The website is not up yet, and the reason being is I wanted a few episodes in the cache before I posted anything. So
Yeah.
the website should go up this weekend. It's going to depend on work. If not, it'll go up sometime next week. So that is it for us this week. We'll be back April 19th at 9:15 p.m. We'll be talking about the command line and our favorite commands and all that stuff. We're going to get so nerdy. It's going to be I'd say we're going to get white and nerdy, but then
but then I ruined that with my color.
Yeah. Damn you. We can't. It's okay. I'll tell you what. We'll just say we're nerdy because we can't do the white thing and be politically correct. And it's okay. Weird Al, it's awesome. What's funny is Ricky and I have known each other for. Let's see. Ricky introduced himself and said, "Hey Matt, let me work on your blog." He worked that was 2009.
Yeah.
So we've known each other for 8 years. That's a long time, man.
Yeah.
8 years for having a bromance. It's awesome, and it's great because we can talk about you can sit there and listen to my inappropriate racial jokes and laugh about it and know that I don't really mean it, other than me. Yeah, okay. I'll take my shovel and dig myself out of this hole. And we'll be back April 19th to talk about commands. We'll see you then.
All right. Shell is life.